Earlier this year, I made a video about what doing it ourselves is, its mission, and also highlighted some people, specifically on YouTube, who tinker and innovate in decentralized, DIY, open source ways, even though they may not share my mission or vision directly. Today, I wanted to kind of do a similar thing. Last time, we showcased people such as Robert Murray-Smith, may you rest in peace, Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and Stefan from CNC Kitchen. And today I wanted to talk about some more channels that I like, watch on a regular basis, and who I think do a pretty good job of aiding the aforementioned mission. With that said, welcome to this episode of Doing It Ourselves, where we once again take a look at more people who do it themselves. These are creators, big and small. I don't discriminate. Anyway, we've got a big list to get through, so let's get right into it. There is, in my view, a gap in the online tinkering space when it comes to things like recycling. But that is exactly what the channel Brothers Make is all about. The bulk of their content is dedicated to the recycling of plastic, a problem plaguing us in the 21st century, and one that big institutions like governments and corporations are hesitant to touch. Brothers Make has shown themselves recycling plastics from many different types of sources, and they've even recycled plastic from a litter-laden beach, and they made a variety of stuff from that. For a long time, the workhorse for their process was a humble panini press, but they have since upgraded significantly. So if you want to know how to get started recycling plastic at home, why not check out Brothers Make? The guy who runs Tech Ingredients does a variety of projects and experiments, and some of it is quite bleeding edge stuff. For example, on his channel there is a video he made about how to make something called flash graphene, an efficient process that uses electricity and a vacuum to create graphene from any carbon source. But this channel has a bunch of other stuff as well. There's stuff on solar thermal, there's stuff on e-bikes, etc. And it's all presented in a very open but technical way. Another big American YouTuber, very similar to Tech Ingredients. Again, very innovative, but with a bit more of a focus on DIY and making surprisingly advanced things from stuff you might find at home. He's done work on low-tech solar, material science, and has even made his own hydrogen blowtorch, which I think is really cool. Yet again, another big American tinkerer, very similar to the other two. One thing I want to highlight though is how this guy has kind of followed in the footsteps of Sam DeLuth in tinkering around with DIY semiconductors. I think that's a big gap in the DIY space, and it's something that's traditionally thought of as only being possible in massive commercial facilities. The fact that we're seeing more people break into this kind of area of tech in a DIY open context is really exciting, and I hope more people with the means are encouraged to follow suit. Okay, so it's chemistry time again, and there are a few notables I want to talk about, the first being Apoptosis. Now before I get into his content, I want to talk about why I think things like hobbyist chemistry are important, especially in the context of things like democratizing resources. Chemistry is probably the foundation, the bedrock, of many things that we take advantage of today. Things like plastics, fuels, dyes, pigments, medicines, all sorts of things. And while it is admittedly one of the more hazardous things to tinker around with, it's also an incredibly powerful tool that can enable the distributed production of things that would usually not be possible to produce at home for the average person. Now obviously if you do this, assess your risk, take proper precautions, wear the right PPE, etc. But in doing amateur chemistry and similar things, you're unlocking processes and research that would normally be locked away behind the doors of universities and corporate labs and plants. With that said, let's go over some of the stuff Apoptosis has been doing. He has a variety of content on his channel, from the more flashy, eye-catching things to more practical, useful stuff. He's done a lot of work on dyes and pigments, and like me, He's also made biodiesel. Additionally, something I think is really cool is how he's made a video on how to make a DIY-able analog of silicone, which is something I may actually try to replicate in the future. When modern education often fails people around the world, it often brings me joy to see young people have an interest in STEM subjects, in this case chemistry. Edward has quite a small channel, only about double my sub count. Please, get subbing guys. But already has an elaborate chemistry setup in his own home, which would take me multiple years to match. He has a definitive interest for chemistry and has even gone as far as to make things like fluorine, which is something I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole unless I knew exactly what I was doing and how to do it safely. Ed, love what you're doing, just stay safe, okay? Let's head down under, shall we, and talk about a personal favourite of mine. Scrap Science has a bit of a thing for electrochemistry. On his channel, Harry has done many electrochemical procedures, some of which I thought weren't possible until I learned about them, like making hydrocarbons from organic salts. He's even attempted his own whole Herald process for refining aluminium, which I think is awesome. Some other honourable mentions for chemistry channels include the up-and-coming Carbon 12, Thylabs, and Amateur Chemistry. Last, but certainly not least, a cooking channel? Well, Gaza is a little bit more than that. Almost everything he cooks, he grows himself. You see, correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy has his own what's called a small holding, what people from other countries might call a homestead. He, like Self-Sufficient Me, is a great resource for growing your own food, but he also cooks delicious vegan meals from it. Well, there are some more people who, perhaps without knowing it, do it themselves and prove what's truly possible. Anyway, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe, see you next time, take care.